Okay, so what I wanted to do was create a program for New Zealand that allows them to educate coaches and athletes to address the needs of New Zealand as a whole. And I based it primarily on what we did in the US, and that for the longest time athletes were coming out of 4 or 5 clubs throughout the country. And with 330 million people, 4 clubs were basically producing all the athletes who represented the US at Worlds, Olympics, and so on. So the key, a whole bunch of people got together and we decided that bottom line is there are clubs and there are coaches and there are kids all over the place, and the reason why they're not being brought into the program is because we're not identifying talent and we're not assisting the coaches and educating them so that they can develop that talent and to bring them through. So the goal here is to create a program that is in line, works simultaneously with the STEPS program. So right now, New Zealand has this phenomenal general gymnastics program, and they have a fantastic STEPS program. And then there's nothing for those who want to develop eventually into a high performance program. So what we've done is put a program that's ground roots based for all levels of gymnastics, all ages of gymnastics throughout the country, and to bring forth the best out of those kids by identifying the kids like you're in your club program and your general gymnastics program, and rather than just let them go by, find out how you can identify the talented kid to bring them into your STEPS program. And because your STEPS kids all come from your general gymnastics program. So helping you as coaches learn how to identify them and then help educate you in all the various modules of training these kids to become good athletes through the steps, through step 1, through step 10, and down the road into the international program. So that's the goal, and this whole program is addressed at increasing the physical abilities of all of the athletes throughout New Zealand. And that to me is where we've been a little bit lax. We're not quite getting a strong base, a strong fundamental base of athletes who can do the skills we're asking them to do. Like I watched a couple of meets, CSG and the TOTS meet in Nelson, and I saw a lot of talent there, really a lot of talent. I wrote down names of kids who just stood out, and I had like 45 kids. That is a lot, and these kids are talented. But the problem is I could see them struggling with skills, and especially as they got onto the junior and senior and level 10 groups, they were doing skills that they weren't physically capable of doing. They hadn't done the ground roots work on physical abilities testing. So our goal here, Michelle and I have worked really hard over the last year putting this together, putting a program together where the whole emphasis, strength, flexibility, coordination, and power, so that we can produce athletes who are great, who can be great through step 1, step 2, step 3, and every level. Our fundamental base in every level is great, with good technique, good capable coaches, good capable kids. So that's where we are with it, and there are different names here. Terry is the king of acronyms, and he's come up with a bunch of different names, so we've incorporated them into it. And this program right now is in a iBook format for many reasons. One is that you can interchange it, you can make changes, which there are many already since it's already in its 2nd edition, and it can be changed at any time. So with input from you guys, and which we've had over the past and which we hope to keep getting from you all, making small changes or the large changes, whatever is necessary, to make sure this is a program that works for you. So we have, we've got basic age group, 6 to 8 years. We've got a really strict physical abilities program for 6 to 8 year olds. Then you think, okay, I've got a kid who just walked in the gym and she's 9 years old and she's talented. Does she miss out? Absolutely not. She is in, whether she's a step 1 or a step 2 or a step 4, whatever it is she is, she still works the physical abilities that we're putting forth. This is a general physical abilities stream that we're trying to get everybody involved with. So it's, is it just for little kids? No, it's not. But it's enabling us as coaches to find those young kids, because obviously the younger they are, the easier it is. But it's not necessarily always the case. Like Kathy Johnson, who received numerous Olympic medals, started gymnastics when she was 11. Yeah, she's not the norm, obviously. The studies have been done. I'm not sure if you're aware of Dr. Bill Sands. He works with the US Olympic Committee, and he does studies for all different sports. But he was an Olympic gymnastics coach, so his background is gymnastics. And his studies have recognized that for learning movement patterns for gymnastics, 9 to 13-year-olds have the most capability of learning different flipping, twisting, technical skills. Does it mean that after they're 13 they can't learn? Absolutely not. It's just easier for the body to achieve success in multiple twisting, flipping skills when they're in that age bracket. So obviously, if it goes against a lot of the thought process that's coming through now to keep the kids in generic sports and don't specialize until they're 13, 14, 15. Well, that's great if you're in basketball or rugby or track and field or swimming. That works fine, but for gymnastics it really doesn't work. The earlier they are, the younger they are, the better it is. I mean, as coaches, we all know that. So anywhere along the line when you want to ask a question, please feel free, and I'll try to address those issues that you may have. So basically, we're going to we have created a physical abilities testing plan whereby all the children in the age groups, aged 6 through 16, 17, 18, there's no age limit other than if you're 20 or 30. And that means, Michelle, you're not able to do this.
I might be able to do it, I'm just not tested.
And the whole goal is that we have you pulled your kids out of your general gymnastics program, so they're now in the STEPS program. So this is a program that doesn't work separately from it. It's integrated into the STEPS program. So when you've got a step 1 gymnast, this athlete is working on the gymnastic skills, and she's also working on her physical skills, strength, flexibility, coordination, power. So that when they are in a position to get out on the floor, they can go through the levels at a much easier rate. Oftentimes you think, well, they should be doing a level a year. Well, if a kid starts at 10 years old, are they going to be 20 years old when they get to step 10? No, that's not what you really want. So in some cases, you may be able to do a couple of meets in level 3, step 3, and then move into step 4, depending on your athlete. But the key is patience. Make sure they have the strength, the flexibility, and the physical skills to do the actual gymnastic skills that we're requiring them to do. Okay, so this is a structured pathway going through all the different age groups, going through all the STEPS program. So if a kid is, she's 8 years old, and she's her skill level is step 3, or her skill level could be step 6. It's irrelevant. She still does the testing for the 8-year-old program. So it's not like we want, okay, if she's a step 7, she's got to be able to do this. It's not that at all. You, as an athlete or as a coach, you train your child to get the strength that they need, and whatever optional skill level she has, whatever gymnastic skill level she is at, is the step level she competes. And so going through the levels, going through the grades as she progresses chronologically, then at some point you're going to say, okay, this is a kid who can go into the International Development Program. And at that point, she may be 15, she may be 12. She may, I've seen a couple of kids in the gym here just watching that when they're 7 or 8 years old, they definitely stood out, and they should be earmarked towards that development program. But right now they're step 4s, which is great. They'll be step 4s, then they'll be step 5, step 6. And by the time they're 14, 15 maybe, they may merge into the international program. It's up to you as the coach and the athletes as to whether they branch out into the international program or whether they stay in the step program. So what we're doing is increasing the ability level of gymnastics throughout the entire country for everybody. Okay, so I am now going to So, our goals: to identify the talent, and not just to identify the talent with the athletes, but to provide the coaches of all athletes the ability and the tools that they need to increase the level of gymnastics with their athletes. So this is part identifying, training the athlete, but equally being here to assist the coaches in every aspect of the training of your athletes. So to create a physical abilities testing plan whereby all the athletes in the age groups focus on strength, flexibility, power and coordination. You've seen, I know you've all had kids where they are physically really strong, they're pretty flexible, they're powerful, but their coordination is awful. And I mean, I had a kid who had double twisting, double back, and it was on 95% of the time. You know, in a resi higher than the floor situation, she never ever competed it because every now and then she'd get lost in the air and it was wipe out. I'm not even putting that on the floor. I mean, and it's sad. And she never ever in her entire life competed it. She wanted to, but she just didn't have that natural coordination. And so there are areas in here where you can figure out how to identify coordination at an early age. And I can tell you, all my years experience in coaching, if they don't have that finite coordination, it's not going to happen. They'll never compete at the level that they possibly could have. So identifying how you can, or giving you the means in which to identify coordination at an early age is can kind of help you along the road with your decisions with your athletes. So, we want to establish a national squad program that recognises and supports New Zealand's outstanding gymnasts and name the athletes, help the club. So, for example, if you've got kids who are doing really, really well in gymnastics throughout, you should be identified as such. Your club should be identified. The kids should be respected for the hard work they put in, as well as the coaches and the areas from where they come. So to provide training camps for these kids, and when we say we're providing training camps, it's more, we're providing a training camp or a workshop or a clinic for the athlete, but it is equally as important for the coach. So, for example, if we have a training camp where in the morning the kids are training, so the coaches when I say coaches of all the kids involved and any other coach who wishes to better their education, then between the two sessions we will have coaches training. And for example, you might decide, I want to go into a session where I'm learning how to teach twisting elements, or I need to work round of entry vaults, and I'm not really positive about the steps and the progressions that I need in that. So there will be a module for learning how to teach Yurchenko entry vaults, and there will be modules for teaching full-ins or triple falls or takeoff positions. Whatever it is, we will have it there for you and available. So throughout the years, the coaches will be part of an education process that Christine is working on right now, whereby coaches online and hands-on will learn all the aspects of coaching that you need. All the areas that you need addressed for your program will be there. We will be there to help you with that through the various modules that we'll put forth. Age designations, just the name of the program for 6 to 8 year olds, wings, so that it's like the kiwi is a flightless bird, and so the idea is to have these little kids spread their wings and fly. This is Terry, and he comes up with some great words. You all know Terry, right?
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
WINGS is Women's National Gymnastics Stream Squad System. Yeah. But Terry has the most amazing acronyms and the graphics to go with it.
Yeah, he's very talented. Then 9 to 10-year-olds, we've designated these age groups more in the lines of the international determination of ages, which is like senior international, junior, youth, and then we've brought our own 2 age groups in here. Toa kaha means, means strong. Toa is champion, so it's like champion strong. And it's incorporating our culture into our program. And then we have, obviously, the Youth International. Okay, so the WINGS program is specifically designed to identify the talented kids. So you're in your general gymnastics program, the means in which you can either do testing situations with them, or at the beginning of each term, just have your coaches do a little schedule of tests and coordination, flexibility, and so on with your athletes, or however you want to do it within your own gyms. But finding the talented child and bringing them into your STEPS program. And we've also got different modules here, so that, or different training models, so that you can understand for a 6-year-old how much physical ability should you be working on as opposed to at your skill level. And our concept is with that 6-year-old, it should be 50-50. So 50% of the time is working on strength development of your athletes. So you're thinking, how am I going to get a 6-year-old kid to focus on a press, handstand, or a handstand body position, or working on their splits? So what we have to do, we've got to incorporate ways in which to make it fun. So, for example, do a conditioning program where it's like relays, and they're doing monkey walk, monkey jumps, bunny jumps, little cartwheels, or the wheelbarrow jumps where they're doing push-ups, but in a fun atmosphere, so they're getting stronger and they're having fun. But we can't expect a 6, 7, or even an 8-year-old to focus solely on strength and body position. So you have to do it in ways in which they think it's exciting and they want to do it. And of course, obviously, you're working handstand body positions and putting them in positions that's maybe that you can make a challenge. You have stickers for whoever holds the longest handstand. And ways to help the kids learn and to be physically stronger, but still enjoying coming into the gym and working on strength elements. So the program is developed so all competitively channeled athletes from both the international pathway and the STEPS pathway can and should participate in the general physical development to enhance their development as gymnasts. Athletes will complete their routines in regionals, nationals, and a competitive environment that is appropriate to their skill level, which we already discussed. So you could have a 10-year-old who is doing step 6, and you have a 10-year-old who is doing step 4. It's fine. They still can be on a strong pathway, and that 10-year-old who is doing step 4, who knows? You know, it's like the hare and the tortoise. The plotter always wins. And it doesn't matter how talented your kid is, the kids who work hard will always eventually outpace the kids who have just the talent and are not able to apply that drive that we find necessary. So this is just going over basically the strength is important to identify natural strength and develop the strength through the various testing procedures as outlined, which we have. Michelle has already made templates for testing formats, which will be available to anybody to look at. We'll have videos showing every skill, so that how we expect it to be done, what we expect from you as coaches to be working with in your gym. And then power. Then as coaches, you're all aware, I'm pretty sure, that you have a kid, you have to develop a muscle mass in order to have explosive power from that muscle mass. So as a gymnast, we need power. We need a lot of quick twitch. When we're born with X amount of quick twitch fibers as opposed to slow twitch fibers. You cannot add to your quick twitch fiber. Whatever you have when you're born is what you have, but you can make them more efficient. So you train your plyometrics to get that quick twitch. You train your athletes to become more efficient in that quick twitch ability. And that's where you're going to get your power. So somebody who has natural quick twitch and they've got a very, very lean look in their body, if you can develop that muscle mass a little bit more, you can be more efficient in the quickness and power from that athlete. So flexibility, it's a necessary part of our sport. It's not that much fun to work on, as we all know, but it's a necessary component that we have to do. And coordination, as I said, it's something that's there or not there. Again, most people are naturally coordinated. Some, very few, are not. And we've all had them. So you have to work with what you have. And then as you go through the 7-year-olds, the 8-year-olds, it's all the same. Everything is to promote the physical development of our athletes. Okay, the taukaha, same. The emphasis is still on strength, power, flexibility, and coordination. At this point, as a 9 and 10-year-old, they have the option. They're working in the STEPS program, they're doing the physical abilities testing, they have the option to start adding in profile skills that we feel we need for the future development of that athlete if they're going to move into the international phase of the program. As a 9 and 10-year-old, that's awfully young, and it's not like, well, you're going to start competing towards the international level. No, what we're going to do is introduce you with skills. For example, a front skill is necessary on bars. So are we going to expect you to do a front giant right off the bat? No, but we're going to give you progressions and drills that we would like you to incorporate into your training. So they work on handstands and a front grip, so they're comfortable in that handstand. They work on handstand drop to their back, extending through the shoulders in the fall, so that down the road they are working towards the skills that we need for when they are 13, 14, and 15. So we don't wait until they're 13, 14, 15 to introduce the basic concepts of the skills that we profile. When I say we, FIG profiles as skills that we need in our performance. Like short circles, we have to have a short circle, we have to have a front skill, we have to have a full pirouetting skill. So at specific stages as a 9 and 10-year-old, and this is going to help all of their gymnastics, whether they stay in the STEPS program or whether they develop into an international program, it doesn't make any difference. You still need to learn how to pirouette on the bars. You still need to learn how to do a back roll extension, half turn like you have in your STEPS program right now. At this point, Youth International, 11 to 13-year-olds, this is right, we call this sub-junior level right now. We've just changed the terminology because this is the FIG terminology. Okay, so secondly, for the athletes, already in the club program, assure the coaches of recreational gymnasts are up to date in a way in which to identify talent. Like with your class coaches or your recreation coaches, just like if the kids are on the bar, see how many little kids can do a pull-up, a chin-up in a session. If you've got one kid as a 7 or 8 year old, she's doing 7 chin-ups, hey, that's not normal. That's good. So if you've got a kid who can do that without much training, pull her out right away. And like sometimes, you know, your body is what it is. Yeah, it's really good to have a short, little, muscular body, but God didn't gift us all with those nice little muscular bodies. And like there was one group out there today, I remember I asked you who they were. It was almost like they all had the same body type. They were all lean, they were all tall, and they were gorgeous. And they were, I don't know who identified them, but all of them were really, really, weren't they? They were exceptional. I only saw them on Beam, but they were exceptional. I'm thinking, I'd like to see if they can do a double back with that body type. But you know what? You have what you have. Look at Bogan Skyer, look at Golkina, look at Nasia Lukin. They didn't have the body type that we really want, but they were amazing. So yeah, if you're blessed to have that little stature that is going to be a phenomenal gymnast, that's great, but let's work with what we have. So at the beginning of the team program, spend a large portion of the first class of each term going through their strength, power, flexibility, and conditioning testing elements, so you can see those who can rise to the occasion. And then also, what I'll do is, always with kids, I'll put up there's a regular training schedule, but every now and then I'll do something that I want to see who has that grit, who has that desire, who's going to do something better than anybody else, see who's competitive. But you can put them in different situations, and I do that without them knowing, purposely throughout the year, just little things here and there. Like in the summer we'll do stadium stairs, see who quits first, see who fights like crazy. And I've also found, and you guys probably have too, I can pretty much tell you in 6 weeks working with a kid, the kid who's going to step up and make it to the highest level and who isn't. And you as coaches probably know too. It's put them through different formats and you can figure it out. And there's nothing that grit, that fire, that desire to win and to be great at all costs, it's innate. It's just something that is there. And you can develop it to a degree, but that fine line where you have that champion, it's there or not. Okay, so I put together time restrictions on what you can do in your workouts to allow the kids to, like for example, 6-year-olds, I think 2 days a week, 2 hours a day. What do you guys do? With your 6, 7, and 8-year-olds, what are your class times right now for your steps kids, your competitive kids?
No, it's that. And we had a group that just started off in our pre-com, so they do only an hour and a half twice a week. But
and how old are they?
To 6.
6.
Even 5, but 6.
5 hours a week.
5 hours a week? Yeah.
Even the 5-year-old.
Okay. That's
2 times 2.5.
2 times 2.5 for a 5-year-old?
Yeah, but they find it easy.
Okay, that's rare. That's good. I mean, if they can, that's good. But that's I mean, it's not just good, it's awesome that they can handle it. You must be doing something in your class that's making it enjoyable and exciting to keep them in there and making it a great learning experience.
I believe,
Yeah, because most 5-year-olds, 2.5 hours, at around an hour and a half to 2 hours, you've lost them. But if you can keep them at 2.5 hours, that's really incredible. But just don't burn them out. It's got to be fun. That's good. Okay, so what we're suggesting is a minimum of 2 days a week, 2 hours a day for 6, 7-year-olds. And 6 to 7 kids in a class. For 7-year-olds, minimum 3 days, 2 hours a day. Is that where we are with you guys? Close to it?
Yeah, actually,
8-year-olds, 3 days, maybe 2.5, 3 hours. 6 to 8 kids in the class. Is that what you normally have in your groups, like 6 to 8 kids or 8 to 10 kids?
8 to 10.
Yeah, we always had 8 to 10 too. And I mean, the key is when you've got a kid, or you've got a group of say 10 kids, and some people think, well, how can you handle 10 kids? Well, you handle 10 kids because you've got 5 stations. If you keep the kids working and moving through stations, you've got them. The minute they stand around and they're waiting for a turn, you've lost them. Kids have to be kept active. They love to be active. So then financial restrictions, really at this level, if you've got 7, 8, 9, 10 kids in a group, there are no financial restrictions. You, as a club, as a CEO of a club, or however your clubs are, it's no financial burden to the club at this point. Okay, so then we get to physical preparation testing. Okay, handstands, gymnastics is a handstand, bars is a handstand. The most important part of any of your training, like well, I was talking to Josiah today, I said spend 10 minutes before, the part of your warm-up with all your kids every day, whether it be, in fact, utilize all the events, beam, bars and floor, handstands, working handstands, different formats of handstands, handstand holds, handstand push-ups, handstand transfer weight from one arm to the other, but all forms of handstands, because as you guys have been to meets throughout the year this year, and what do you see the biggest problem with handstand pirouettes on bars? Body positions. Their handstands are done with legs apart, archy backs, pirouetting with heads out, and there's no consistency in the skills, so the kids are falling or messing up, and that's all because they haven't done the preparation necessary at the earlier age groups to be really confident in a handstand, all parts of a handstand, any time of the day, anywhere. So if you do the job as step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all of those areas really zero in on the handstand on every event, every day, they will have that ability. Like one of the little kids today, she's doing back walkovers with the head out here, the chest out. So I just said, okay, if I see your ears, you get an ear fuzzy. What's an ear fuzzy? I said, rub your ears, and it's not fun. But it's funny, and they don't mind it. But they just get the idea, oh, okay, I've got to push tall, I've got to keep my ears covered in a handstand. So you can help them in different ways without saying, no, you've got to do it again, that was not right, you've got to, so you make corrections fun. Okay, so this is, have all you guys seen this program at all yet? Anybody? Okay. So this gives you an idea of where we need to be. Handstand holds, 10 seconds with 6-year-olds, 20 seconds with 7-year-olds, 30 seconds with 8-year-olds.
We're behind.
You're a bit behind?
On the 6 and 7.
With 1 hour a week, or 2 hours a week, how do you get handstands of 10 seconds, 6-year-olds?
So when you can do handstand holds when they're on bars, you can have a low bar against the wall, they can be in a handstand hold and trying to balance it, so they can use it as a station. And are they doing 10-second handstand holds every day? They'll get to there eventually.
You mean holding handstand independently or holding against the wall?
Holding against the wall.
Oh, right.
So but then when they're actually tested at the end of like if you guys test them once a month or however often you test them, then they've got to be able to show us that handstand hold for as long as they can, whether it be on the beam or on the floor or on parallettes, wherever they're most comfortable. Single leg squats, just developing the quad and getting the muscle mass developed. It's an easy thing. It's a station. You just go through the working arabesques or leaps here, and they go through a station where they've got to do, say, 3 single leg squats, move on to the next station so it can be incorporated on every event. Chin-ups, like when they're on bars, just basic strength, working the chin-ups. And you know, you can make it fun for the kids. So you're in groups today, you're on teams, this team's got to beat this team. So who can have the most chin-ups in 2 minutes out of all of the group? So they're fighting like crazy. Okay, we beat them this week. So you can still, and it may not be perfect form, and you know, it's great to have perfect form, but at this age it's more important to have fun and make it exciting and a team thing and a game. And eventually they will have perfect form. L lifts on the wall bars. It's just pure hell. But 10 L lifts on the wall bars as a 6-year-old is really, really good. And obviously you work on body positions and they will get there. And that's one thing that it's kind of hard to make that one fun. Maybe you can come up with some ideas that will make that fun. Press handstands from a straddle out on the beam or on the floor. Obviously, they do it against the wall so they can press up, go against the wall and come back down again, just toes on the floor, up to the wall. So by the time they do this every day, they're doing 2 or 3 every day as part of a station. Eventually, they're going to get that on their own. That's all it is. It's just time. You're not going to get 3 press handstands the first time you try a press handstand. Rope climb. Everybody's kid does rope climb, right? Everybody does rope climb. And that's what, then you do it for time. And they try to beat each other's time, which is what you want. And then cast handstands with nice straight body. It's just part of your complex, your bar complex. When you're there as a coach, one of your stations, you're taking the kids through cast handstands. And I'm sure you all do that anyway. So, 6-year-olds, there is no testing for cast handstands. I mean, obviously they can work cast and they will work them every day. Flexibility. Leg splits between 2 boards. So you have the boards like this, the upper part of the board here. One leg, put a line on the board. Is that me?
No.
Okay.
You're just a ding-dong.
But working your flexibility, that's another thing. You as a coach can work PNF, stretching with your athletes. You do whatever you feel is necessary for them. Some you can just have on the floor and stretch and pull up for 5 counts, down for 5 counts. So you're working a PNF type of format. Straddle splits. There are videos of this and pictures that show you the positions that we'd like you to work towards. Obviously, some kids have natural flexibility and some kids have to work on it forever. I have to say, Alicia Sacramone, you know who she is. She never could make a press handstand, and she's a pretty dang good gymnast. So, some things are not going to be always possible. Coordination. What I've found to be the easiest coordination skill, I know they don't have paddle mats in this gym. Do all you guys have? Any of you guys have paddle mats in your gyms? Panel?
Panel. Yeah, we have one real old one. Yeah.
Okay.
But we still see one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, get a surface. I'm always making a soft surface. So, like a panel mat is the best type of thing. You can have it at different levels, but maybe this. How many centimeters is that? Like 20 centimeters? We're in inches, so I have to keep a lay down. Actually, I have to think of a fat mat that's 20 centimeters or 8 inches. But have them hop from one foot to the other up to a panel mat. If you've got a 6-year-old who can jump up and down for 15, 20 seconds, she's coordinated. That's like the easiest test there is. Then maybe get hoops and have them jump on one foot at a time, side to side, down the hoops. If they can make it to the end and you've got, say, 5 or 6 little circles there that they go through, she's coordinated. Get a jump rope. If you find that they can't coordinate their hands and their feet in the jump, and they can't make it past 1 or 2 jumps, they're not very coordinated. But there are really easy ways in which to test coordination. Okay, so those are the basic things that we'll want to see the 6-year-olds do at least 10 quick tempo jumps on each leg. These aren't actually tested. This is just what we'd like you to work on so that you can see where they are. Power. Okay, basically, 20-meter run down the vault runway for speed, for time. Jump from the floor up to a panel mat or a box or whatever it is. See who has the highest jump or the longest jump. So you're testing actual natural quickness in an athlete. And it's pretty easy to do. It can be part of your conditioning where you do box jumps. And if you're working coordination and power at the same time, it's pretty easy to accomplish. Event testing. As you get older, vault. Front handspring to a hip high mat. Block off the hands, land on the flat back on the mat. I think, what is that, step, which one? 3. Okay, so it's basically what your step 3s are doing now. So these are all pretty close to what your steps kids are doing for the testing areas here. Uneven bars, kick cast 3/4 handstand there are no skill testing at all for 6-year-olds. 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and if you've got a 15-year-old and they're doing a kick 3/4 handstand, that's fine too. But these are just skills that we'd like you to be working towards. On beam of the obvious. Front kicks, arabesque, half turns, passés, split leaps, sissones, and so on. Acro skills, handstand hold. 7-year-olds mostly doing back walkovers? No. We're asking you to show us a kick cast recorder. You can do it on your own and show us what you have, or you can do it with a spot. So we see that you're working towards the skills.
And there's clean hip circle as well, That's hard.
Yeah. For an 8-year-old.
For the 7 years old, there's hip cast 3/4 and a clean hip circle.
So ours, maybe not our 7-year-olds, but they sort of just turned 8, so I suppose you could say they're 7.
So
we've got clear circles going on straps.
Yeah. And that's what we want. We want to see that you're working those progressions. So you're doing it with a spot, or they're doing it in straps. So when you're tested for this, you just do where you are. And then we'll say, okay, you're not dropping back hard enough on that. You're planching too much, so that we're there to help you. Obviously, there are no international competitions for this level. There are all of these kids, all from 6 years through to 13, 14 steps program. You work the physical conditioning skills, and you work the applicable level in the steps program. And as I said, you may have a 10-year-old who is a step 3, you may have a 10-year-old who is a step 8 or a step 9. It doesn't matter. You always work the skills applicable to your ability. And then it's the same with mobility, going through the levels. It's exactly like your steps. And you can transfer from, if you're 16 years old and you have been doing the international program and you want to drop back to steps, you do. If you're in the steps and you think, I really want to try that, I think I'm good enough to do that, well, you and your coach, then you do. And all of these clinics, workshops, all the clinics and workshops we're going to be working on, that we're going to have them available in the North Island and the South Island, and as many as we can do, we will do. So if there's a Sunday that's okay, we're going to have the 3-hour workshop, and we're going to be zeroing in on twisting techniques for vault, for floor.
It's a work in progress for this, because Mary's written this program, but we realise it's all quite integrated with not only the program but the education that goes with it, and none of us can have our gymnasts succeed or reach their potential if the coaches aren't able to get in there, and we don't want those gymnasts having to feel that they need to move somewhere else. We want each club having the capability of taking their gymnasts
to stay with you.
Yeah. Not the capability to take the gymnast at least as far as you can, or as far as you're committed to getting them there.
Yeah, and Christine's putting together, we're doing a national calendar for 2018, and then once all the meets from all the clubs and all the activity going on throughout the year is put forth in the calendar, then we'll see what weekends are available where we can do a workshop, say 2 or 3 in the North Island, 2 or 3 in the South Island, whereby coaches can come in, and it may be all day, and you may pick 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 different modules to work on that one day. Or you might decide, well, since I'm here, I want to do as many as I can. And that's going to be available to you. That's our goal, to make sure that you are equally as educated as we are trying to educate the athletes. Because coaches' education is as important as athlete development. In fact, it's more important. Training camps. Okay, so our goal right now in training camps is to provide camps for different levels, whether it be international levels or whether it be steps 6, 7, 8 or whatever it is, but the whole goal of the training camp is to have morning sessions for athletes. Say, for example, you two have kids in the training camp. None of you have actual kids in the training camp. But all of you are invited not only to just be there and watch, but to be hands-on. Okay, I want to spot these. Can you show me how to do that? What are you doing in that double back? How are you tapping them in the air? How are you spotting the landing? So you are going to be a part of that. And then there'll be a coaching, either discussion or learning atmosphere between the two. So there'll be to you about how you run a program throughout the year, how you periodize your annual plan, what you need to do to get your kids physically fit in this area, why you're struggling. I see your kids at the end of a floor routine, they're really puffing and that they don't look really prepared. What do we need to do? So all of those things will be addressed. Any needs that you have, like the more feedback we have, the easier it is for Christine and Michelle and Terry to work towards having precise goals for you. But, you know, for example, what you might need may be different from what you need. So we want to be able to address everybody's needs. So we'll have actual plans so that if you've got a workout, we'll come up to that in a minute. So different camps always will have an education module within the camps. And everybody is available to participate. Okay, so these are ideas of if you have a 2.5-hour training session, we want to be able to, instead of, you know how you guys, when you coach, you've got, okay, I'm coaching 20 hours a week, I've got to do planning for 10 hours a week. You're all in that situation, right? You've got to work on lesson plans and so on. We want to make it easier for you in that, okay, I've got this 2.5-hour training session, I've got 3 days a week, this is what I need to do. I've got rigorous 10-minute running, stretching, then a 10-minute dance section, then 15 minutes on vault. You think, okay, well that's well and good, I can do that, but what do I do? What kind of stretching do I need to do for 8-year-olds as opposed to 15-year-olds? What kind of dance can I do in 10 minutes? Like, and we're trying to get videos for you so that you can have like step 1, step 2. This is the kind of beam complex they need to be doing to prepare them for the skills that they are trying to achieve in that step 1 or step 2 compulsory routine. So this is a beam complex for your kids, and there may be a 15-minute complex for a different, like little step 9s. And we're trying to work with various people to put together videos for you. So it's all there. It's all there for you. You don't have to do that. What am I going to do today? Okay, this kid, she can't even leap. How do I get her to leap? Split leap on the beam is tragic. What do I do? Yeah, sometimes they are tragic. So we're going to give you different progressions on how to get your athlete to get up in the air, how to get them to whip that split. So this is, we want this to be as much an education process as it is a teaching of your athletes. So it's in fact, it's more. It's more of educating you, not so much educating, because you know you'll want to do this. You're coaching because you love it. You have a passion for gymnastics. But you know what? I can tell you the mistakes I've made throughout my years. If I had, in fact, yeah, I've made many mistakes. But I've identified people who are doing the job well and doing it properly. And so I'll call them, okay, I'm having a really hard time getting my kid to stay on the beam. It doesn't matter what I do, I can't keep her on the beam. Okay, have you done a lot of visual routines? Have you done, are you doing the skills correctly? Are you putting them in pressure situations? You know, what are you doing? So we're trying to make this easier for you so you don't have to make the mistakes that many of us make in the learning process. We're trying to make your step from 1 to 10 as efficient as possible. So instead of going up 1, down 2, up 2, down 1, you are just progressing through the levels at a much more efficient and accelerated rate. So we're hoping to, well, our plan is to have dance videos for you, like a ballet bar, a 10-minute ballet bar that's going to help your kid, a complex on the beam, a warm-up on bars for the specific levels, if it's like step 8 or step 9, what they need to be working in prior to actually starting their bar rotation and the skills that they're working on in that rotation. Like today, I was talking to Josiah. I said, if you watch the podium training for the US kids, or you watch what they do in a workout, they come in and they do their running and they do their stretching, and then it is handstand conditioning, and they'll go to bars and they're working handstands. They'll go to beam and they're working handstands. They're on the floor, they're working handstands. Every single kid in every gym. And I'm not just saying this just because, from what I've seen, like I've watched kids come in to warm up and for meets this last year, and I never once saw a kid working handstands. They'd warm up, do the little warm-ups, and then they're on their event and they're ready to go. And okay, that to me is odd, but that's just maybe, but I remember I didn't always do that. Somebody had to tell me, why didn't you do that? I thought, yeah, okay. You can develop the culture in the gym, because I made it an effort to make sure every single kid on every level in my gym, if there was one thing they were going to do, they were never going to have flexed legs or not extended toes and feet and legs at every single second of that beam routine. And because I made us, doesn't count, start over. When you've got 5 routines to do and you have to start over on one over and over and over, eventually they will get the picture. And I know it's a process. And once it comes down through the levels, they will get it. But I know, like I tell people, it's easy to be a coach. It's really, really hard to be a good coach. Because a good coach is patient and fights for every little detail. And that's what makes it hard. It's easy just to, I'm a coach. It's easy.
But also with the Russian, I can tell we had like massive ballet preparation, which one, probably not even Americans doing this. Mm-hmm. Still, but we had many of hours. You know, there's like 8 hours a day. Yeah, obviously, we can spend 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon for the ballet and the beam floor. But that's the extension of the legs.
Yes,
it was
exactly.
There.
And that's why we want to incorporate a dance, a 10-minute to a 50-minute to a 20-minute dance, ballet bar as part of your training. That you don't have to figure, I don't even know what to do. What am I going to do? Well, here it is. This is what you need. And if you can incorporate that into your daily training, you will get the tight knees and the tight feet. You will get that extension. Is it going to happen overnight? No. But it can, and it will happen. But I can see just from watching gymnastics here that that's not something that you guys have seen. And hey, I'm with you. Okay, periodization. This is what's wrong?
Nothing, no. I'm just at a point where I have to do a periodization plan in my coaching thing, and it's just like,
yeah, reason why I have made this a big push is that I never used to periodize, and I didn't even know what it was. Like Dr. Bill Sands started working with the USA team, not just gymnastics, but he did do a lot with our gymnastics team. And as a scientist, he periodized the training, and he helped me periodize my training for years. To the point where we were counting numbers, we're taking pulses to, really overdoing it. And I found, I talked to coaches just in the last couple of weeks, and I'm talking some good coaches, and how do you periodize your training? And there are still some in the States who do not periodize training. And I know, like, the 84 Olympics, we had 5 of the 8 kids on the USA team were my gymnasts. And I never periodized the training. And last year we had a little reunion, and the kids were saying to me, yeah, well, do you know why, like, Pam was really fresh and did really well at the Olympics? Because she had had a slight sprain of her ankle 3 weeks before. We had to rest her. And so she was fresh, and she did really, really well. And then Kathy Johnson, who didn't have a sore part of her body, was in great shape, but we overtrained her, and she fell on the floor in finals in the Olympics. And why did she fall? She fell because I did not periodize her training enough for her to do well. So it's like I don't want to put people in a position now where they're making mistakes because they don't know. So periodizing, what I've done on this is read it because it's really, really important. But I did this chart here. This is based on New Zealand's system, like 1 nationals a year. So your years and nationals. There is general, you'll find out here, like there's the physical preparation phase. There are various phases: general physical preparation, specific physical preparation, and perfect specific biomotor ability. These are not terms I came up with, these are just Sam's terms, but it's explained in here and it's really easy to understand. But bottom line is, you work various parts of the season. Your general preparation phase, you want to make sure that you're building muscle mass, you're learning skills, and then you get into your various phases of training. The specific phase, for example, up here in October to February, so after Nationals through to February, you're in your general physical phase. So you're working specifically skills. But what I do, if you guys found that, you're working skills in the off-season, skills, and when you start to prepare the kids to get routines together, you struggle, you have a few little injuries, you struggle to get them fit. So what I would do in the gym is every Wednesday, even through our general physical phase where we're just doing predominantly skills, on a Wednesday, they had to do 1 floor routine. It could be watered down tummy, but they had to do a floor routine, they had to do a beam routine, they had to do a bar routine. So that they never lost that totally, that ability to be in routine shape. They still knew that every Wednesday they had to get a routine in there and it had to be good. So then we could zero in. The rest of the 30 hours of the week was spent on individual skills. And then you see the graph here, the cross, which is a plus. So incrementally you increase the workload. Then always on your 4th week, you taper down that little bit. You have to push to overload, but then you've got to underload. Then you push to overload again and you need to underload. You can't just keep intensifying week by week by week by week by week. The body will fall apart. Generally, most injuries occur at the end of the week or at the end of a cycle where you're in an overload phase. So you've got to know your athlete and you've got to know your training. So this is, if you read this, it's going to be a lot more easy to understand. I don't want to go through every single part of it right now, but basically the gymnast builds a solid foundation during the preparatory phase, which encompasses the general and specific physical training. The 3rd phase is specific. Is this going over your head? Sometimes.
Those words, that's what's going on.
Yeah. Anyway, this you guys read and we can talk about. But bottom line is, if you don't periodize your kids' training, you're setting yourself up to fail. Like one coach I talked to just recently, he is so smart. He said, oh yeah, I do all that, but I don't write it down. I said, how can you remember what you did 4.5 weeks ago? And he basically told me what he did 4.5 weeks ago on each event. I thought, okay, you are OCD or you're somewhere out there on the spectrum, but that's not normal. But very, very few people can do that. Like I've used periodization every year since 1988, and I can honestly say that by the time my kids are ready for a meet, it's very, very rare that they will be injured through that area. It is very, very rare that a kid has not been completely ready and confident of their skills. And a lot of times, I didn't have a male coach in my gym for quite a few years. And I did all the progressions and drills, and I used belts for spotting on bars, and I'd bring people in periodically. And everyone always would say, your kids are always ready. How come they're so ready? They always look so confident. I said, I'm not telling. But bottom line, it was, I periodized their training to the point where they were so confident and so consistent that there was no question as to whether they knew they were going to compete. They knew. Like if I had 5 kids in step 10, I knew I was going to get 5 kids to level 10 nationals. And you're not really that aware of how hard it is to get a kid to nationals. In our country, it's not like everybody goes. It's every age group, every region has 7 kids qualify in that age group. So in our region, Region 1, it was Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California. We're talking like 150 clubs. 7 kids come out of that region in one age group. That was really, really hard. But I knew every year that all of my kids would make it because I periodized their training. Were they the best kids there? Maybe not, but they were the best prepared. So this is something you can all look through. I can actually put this into a hard copy. I have a hard copy if you guys want me to get copies of it and send you home with it so that it's a little easier to understand. Okay, cycle strategies. That's one thing that we're really going to zero in on with coaches development through Christine's program is, for example, you've got Charlotte. And you know that you're developing her through to 2020. That's your goal. Well, I'm assuming that's your goal.
It's my goal.
Okay. That's your goal. You're developing her to 2020. You know, on bar, she needs a front skill. All the specific skills she needs. So, okay, you've got to have short circles. It's not a requirement, but you have to have it. So why not include a short circle and a front skill together? Why not start working on a front stalder? Why not develop that? Knowing that down the road this is what she's going to have. She's going to have a full pirouette. She's going to have a twisting dismount, basically, a full out or something for 2020. So what do you do now? Like right now you're 3 years away. So the first part of this year, you are going to work, say, front giants. Is she working front giants?
She's working forward to 1.
Perfect. That's even better. So she's incorporating a short circle with a front skill.
Or forward clear circle.
That's perfect. Okay, so working that. Now, for her, she's working a same bar release.
Yeah.
Okay, what is she?
Time catching.
What our goal is to give you all the progression you need in year 1 now, what you need to have to get to year 3 or 2020. So what are you going to be doing? This is what you need in 2017 to get to 2020. So these are the things you need for her on bars. On beam, what is she doing for her tumbling? A flick layout. Okay, so she's doing a flick layout right now. So on the floor is one of her stations. She should be doing flick layout. She's doing a side aerial?
Yep.
Okay, so also along in year 1, which is 2017, along the floor, she's doing side aerial back handsprings. That's great. So now we're coming into 2018. That flip layout she did for an entire year as a progression on the floor, she is now doing on the beam. And heck, you know what, that side aerial flip that she's doing on the floor, we're working a side aerial layout now. So 2019 comes along. This kid is now doing a side aerial flick layout to a layout to 2 feet. So by the year 2020, she has a beam routine that is comparable to the best in the world. So you see where we're going? It's strategizing what you need for here, backtracking, and you don't put it all in here in year 2017. You've got a whole year of progressions that are incorporated in for 2018. It's now in her routine. So her head is not bombarded with, oh my God, I've got to get all these skills. It's just she doesn't even know doesn't even need to know what your progressions are for her. As far as, okay, you're going to be competing this in a year. Don't tell her, just have her so that she knows confidently I can do this. And then, so on the low beam, she does her flick lay on a low beam. When she's made 100 that are really, really good, okay, so now let's go to the medium beam with a mat under it and a mat on top. After you've made 100 on there, okay, we're ready for the next beam. So if you can be patient and get the numbers in so the muscle memory is in there, then by 2020, you're looking, oh my gosh, you know what? She's got a 6'1" start value. We're up there with the rest of the world. But if you think, okay, I've got to get all this and I've got to get it now, no, you don't need it right now. Be patient. I'm not saying, but I'm saying generally that's what we need to do. And the same thing is if you've got a kid doing a walkover on the beam. Okay, teach it correctly. Don't have to go back and make changes because she's got her ears out and you have to give her ear fuzzies every day. So make sure that it's done correctly. Take the time to be patient. I know that was one of the things I had to learn. When I first went to the States, it was like, okay, she's got a flick. Can you teach it to her, right? I said, it's looking pretty good. She's staying on. Yeah, her head is out and her arms are bending and she's putting a lot of stress on her back every time she lands on her hands. Yeah, but I can't change it. Really? You can't change it? Or you won't change it? Well, she's done it like this for 3 years, so what can I do? You can take it back to the beginning and change it. And I thought, okay, I'll do that. And you know, that kid went on to make the Olympic team. But she wouldn't have if I didn't have the patience or being told, yes, you have to change it. So do it right. And you guys want to know how to do it right. And if you don't, we'll make sure you do.
I think, some of the lessons from that, and you're talking sort of at a league level, but if we look at the lower steps now, a lot of the people here, the coaches are people who are already doing some of this planning, but one of the things this year people went, the steps has got harder. Well, no, it actually didn't get harder, but if you coach from now that you're going into this step, you will learn this, then it's going to be hard. But if you've done the preparation for those things in previous years, so people went, oh my God, there's a flyaway in step 6. Well, there used to be a flyaway in step 6 20 years ago. But it's because people weren't doing the preparations for it in the swings and the landings 2 years before. And 2 years before, when they're smaller and easier to manoeuvre, that's when you start prepping those sorts of things. You don't wait till they get to step 6 to learn it. And so, and I've heard the comment that the step 6 beam is really easier than the step 5 because they don't have to do the handstand. I'm going, well, then use that time because it's not as hard to look at where you need to go for step 7. What do you need in step 7? I need an acro series. And I need something forward and backward. So if they can do the backward walkover in step 6, why in step 6 aren't you putting tip-top backward walkover? There's your 2 skills that you need to have. And then you can put it onto the back solo dismount. So you're starting to prepare things several years in advance. So that when they get there, they're confident that they've already got those skills. They're not going, I'm not going to make it this year because I haven't got it. You've done the preparation in advance. So I'm sort of saying that for those who are coaching in the lower steps, and it's unfortunate those people who are doing that and don't do that sort of planning aren't here to listen today, because I think you've got the converted a lot of them.
Yeah, they'll get on.
This is the periodization, and then this shows you the peaking going through the years, and then what kind of skills you do in each week, whether it be combination skills, half routines, full to half routines, full routines, whatever it is you're doing. And then same here. This was based on a USA schedule, my club schedule, but it shows you like the JO elements, which would be your steps elements, and then those who are trying to do the elite program, the elite elements that they would be doing and where they need to be. And then a basic, like this was up on our wall every single week, so everybody in the gym knew exactly what each kid was doing for every minute of every day. So there were no questions, kids could prepare, and it was easy for them to be prepared for what they needed to accomplish. Okay, that was the example we already talked about there. Conditioning. Obviously, the physical abilities testing is all part of the conditioning program, what we need to do. I've just put together some ideas of circuits for you to help with your conditioning program. I found that circuits, I get way more out of a circuit because it's easier. For example, if you've got 10 kids in a group or 20, it doesn't matter. You put them through, like we did the bar circuit with the national team kids, and we did a beam circuit another day, the national squad kids. You get so much more out of them because they're on a time frame and they're moving really quickly from one skill to the other. So they're working on pushing themselves super hard rather than just say, okay, here's your conditioning plan, go over there and do it. And do they do it all? I don't know. Do they? Most kids just innately will cheat a little bit. Very rarely do you find a kid who never ever cheats and who will fight like crazy to do that. So this way you can be on top of it more. You're on a time, it's 30 seconds, go, and you can see immediately if someone stops or if they quit in the middle of something or they have a break and jump up again. Then the floor circuit, the same thing, you've got tabs on them. The more you can be in control of what they do, the better that they will be. If you leave the control to them, especially when it comes to something that's hard, with your step 7 or step 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all these kids should be really on a strict conditioning program. So that just shows you different ideas. Do you understand all of that? Do you do this?
A lot of that, yes.
In a circuit situation or?
No, not really. No. So you're saying when you go to start your bar training, you'll do this?
No, this is just part of your conditioning.
Right.
But do it as a circuit as opposed to just, do you let the kids do their own thing or are you on top of everything they do?
For a while it was, we were at 1 or 2 stations and we realized that went very wrong. So now we are very much on top of them. So we have less circuits and counting more. So they actually do less conditioning, but they're much more tired for some reason. Yeah, but
So
we do. But it is a circuit.
Yeah.
It is definitely.
But it's like how you timing, 45 seconds, 15 seconds break, and then next on rotate pretty much, right?
Yeah, well, what we'll do is I'll have groups of 2 together.
Yeah.
So there'll be, when one person's on, the other person's resting. So like one round they may do 45 seconds, round 2 they may do 30 seconds, round 3 they'll do 15 seconds. So they know it's getting easier, but they're getting more tired. And
So how many rounds you do at once?
pardon me?
How many rounds?
I would do it 2 to 3. Depends, like if you've got a large group and you're using 10 different drills, like for example, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so there are 10 drills in the bar circuit, so you can have 20 kids going.
So one doing, one resting. So it's 45 second they do, 45 second they rest.
Yeah.
It's tricky because you have to make this work within your gym and within the other groups that are training at the same time. So a lot of the times when our group has got their conditioning time set up, we've already got a group on bar, we've already got a group on vault, we've already got one on beam going.
And,
so kind of have to figure our way.
Yeah.
So we do have circuits, but it's not necessarily as many as that.
Yeah, you may have three bars or 3 bar stations that you can use. And for example, it could be wall bar, a low bar on the floor, a rope, or a single bar, and incorporate what you have available.
So will you do one song a day? Like 3 rounds, one, and then...
Yeah.
I find it more suitable for seniors, for bigger girls. When you do conditioning with a 6-7-year-old, when they do these snaps on floor, you tend to be with them actually too.
Yeah, which...
Fixed feet, knees, toes, If you put 6-7 years, in 3, 4, 5 stations.
I find it,
This is definitely good for old kids.
I've actually been trialling that because with my little tiny ones, what I've had is a lot of my extend program kids. So I stand back and watch, and on my junior coaches, and we've got the circuits going, so there'll be a beam circuit, a floor circuit, a bar circuit, and they'll do 30 seconds on each and rotate round. And by the time they've done that twice, they're actually knackered, and they can come and they can listen and they can think. And then we have like a station where this is only have 2 things going rather than circuit the whole thing. 2 things going, so they're really attentive. They actually want to learn, so they've actually done the fun things. They're bouncing to handstands and they've done all that. It might not be brilliant, but as they're getting stronger and faster, that's them pulling back in to be able to use their brains. Whether that's everybody, that's what I've been trying in the last couple of weeks, and it's showing a difference.
Yeah. And then also, like for example, on beam, say I've got 10 kids, and I always had large groups because, financially, it's easier to pays better to have more kids in your group. But I'll have 5 beams, and if we're in routine mode, the one person on the beam is doing a beam routine, the other person has 5 different stations that they have to accomplish, go around twice. So could be 10 press handstands. So they'll do that, and then they're back on the beam for their turn on the beam. And so there is never a time where the kid is sitting around. It's you're on the beam, you're doing a station. You're on the beam, you're doing the second station. You're on the beam, you're doing your third station. And I'll do stations that are close to the beam. For example, the P-bars were close to the beam, so they had to do dips as one of their stations. The wall bars were close, they had to do wall bars. The rope was close, so they did a rope. So whatever was close to beam, it was like from here to the wall away and then back on the beam. And utilizing those, so there's no dead time, there is no downtime. And even with little kids, they are good with that. They are really good with being able to do a little station that might be super easy. For example, it could be a plank hold for 30 seconds. That they're just holding their body. You could be working shape exercises. You could be maybe doing your single leg squats. Whatever it is. But always utilize your time. Like I went into one gym recently and there were about 8 or 9 kids in the group. They used 1 bar, and I basically timed one kid for 45 minutes, and she was actually on the bars for like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
4.5 minutes.
I've done that too.
That was here in New Zealand.
Surprise.
It blew me
No,
away.
it was 7. Okay, so not 4.5, 7.
7? That's
7
even better.
Out of 45.
That's why you get off the bar, you've got station, 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 then you chalk up, then you're up again. There's no chalking up on your stations, no. You work your stations out, and it could be a body shaping. It doesn't always have to be taxing the body. It can be feet up laying on your shoulders on the ground with your hips up, your toes on a mat or a block about this high up, and you're just working tight legs, lifting a leg up and down, the other one up and down. So they're just feeling the tension in the legs. That is a super easy station, 5 on each leg. Then they're on another station where they're handstand against the wall, just working shoulder shrugs. So they don't have to be taxing stations. Or it could be handstand pirouettes on a station, against the wall. Just whatever suits your gym, what is easier for you, but it's so easy to set up stations. And vault stations, that is really easy. You can be, board jumps or hopping or anything that is applicable to the level of the kid that you're working with. But the key is, once you've lost a kid by them being standing around watching that, you've lost them. Okay, so this is Faisal, and then what I'm doing when I go to Christchurch in a couple of days, I've got a list of 60 conditioning skills that I'm going to film, so that you're like, for example, the first one on each, there are 5 handstand drills on bars, 5 handstand drills for beam, 5 handstand drills for floor. And so these stations we're going to put in a video format so that you can have access to them and incorporate them into your gym. What works for you may not work for somebody else because of how your gym is set up. So you pick the things that work for you, but you can see what they are and how to do them and how to incorporate them into your gym. Because the key is, it really is being efficient in your time. You don't have to have a workout that's 4.5, 5. I've seen people around here who are, the kids are working 30 hours a week. I go, really? 30 hours, huh? So just get somebody in there, one day, just one parent, or anybody, just, okay, you're going to, no, okay, not a parent. Somebody that you can use for the day and not do anything other than time. Just pick one kid, and in that 4.5, 5 hour workout, just every time she's actually on the equipment, timer. I bet you anything, in 5 hours, she does about 45 seconds of work. That is really poor training. That is, why take 5 hours out of your kid's day to be in a gym where you're actually on the equipment for 45 minutes? Be efficient. You don't have to, like, for example, when you go to World Championships, this is just an example, but when we have training days, we're set a schedule. And some days we had 10 minutes on an event. I'm telling you, 10 minutes. Like, for example, today, and the kids, seriously, 10 minutes it took them after their event, okay, go get ready for bars. 10 minutes to get the grips on and get off on the bar. Well, your rotation is over, hello, and not only was it just you, it was 5 other people in your group, and you lost the entire rotation. You lost your training schedule, your session that day. So you've got to utilize your time efficiently. Set up your drills, and also you've got your plan. Okay, here's your 4-year plan. So bring those progressions in that you need, that you want to accomplish. You've got kids who are doing back walkovers on beam. Next year, you know they have to do a back handspring. Well, don't expect them to do a back handspring the first day they move into the next level. They should be doing that back handspring on the floor, on a line, every single day while they're doing a back walkover in the competitive year. So that season, yes, they're doing the back walkover. As soon as that season's over, they have all the skills. They have the skills ready for the next year. You don't go into the next step and try to learn the skills that you're going to compete. You have the skills, and you make those skills into a routine format and perfect the skills that you're going to compete. And then you work the progressions for the next year. So it's utilizing your time wisely. You do not need 5-hour workouts. In fact, you can't keep a person training for 5 hours. Seriously, any of you? Can you do anything for 5 hours and have your focus 100%? That's why we have so many injuries. You've got to train smart. Okay, these are physical abilities test forms. With these physical abilities testing, what we want to do is we want anybody who wants to become a tester will participate in testing procedures so that you can test in your gym obviously as much as you want. But say for example, you're in Hamilton and you need someone from Hamilton testing all the clubs around there. We will be in a position to help you learn the process of how to test. Obviously, doing a leg lift on the bar, it's pretty easy to count to 10. But we will be in that. We will have the ability to help you guys learn how to test and be proficient adjudicators of the testing. We have some videos, some of these videos here, like front splits on the beam. Someone told me just push that.
Yeah, you just that's the one.
Okay. So here's between 2 boards. The lower you can get down to the middle of the board, the better. Center splits on a line. See how she don't, like, here's the leg line is okay, incorrect hip position. See how that is? So now, pressing the hips under. I mean, you're all very familiar with this. Strength.
These are not only the assessment of this, but really are good for how judges should assess these skills.
So this kid here would get no credit for that. Let's see that. So the legs are too low and she drops at the end. So she'd get 0 credit for this rope climb.
So she needs to stay in the L position, right?
So this one is exactly where you want the feet should be shoulder height, knees tight, and climb up the rope for time. She's dropping a little bit there. Eventually, as we get more proficient in testing, she would get the time that she's done the skill, that she's climbed the rope, and she would get maybe a half a point off because the knees were a little bit loose. So basically, then what we're doing, we're not testing this, but what we want you guys to be working on, just as a progression, when they're doing you're just running around a punch front or a punch front off the block, down to the floor punch front, try and work cisones or split jumps out of them so that they're, not that they may necessarily compete it, but they're working on it.